Hello. Welcome back to another review. This time we have Druid, which is my favorite class and my main class that I play the most. Let's start with the first card, which is Fee with the Setting Sun. A 9 mana for 12 dragon. So it has stats similar to other legendary dragons for 9 mana, like Ysera, and some other ones. Can't remember. Malygos. It has Rush, it has Lifesteal, it has Taunt. It costs 1 less for each dragon you have summoned this game. And it's a dragon. It has a pretty sweet signature art as well. Probably my most favorite one from the set. This card seems like an auto include in all the Druid decks that play at least a few dragons. Because you usually die too early against aggro, and this can heal you a ton. Plus it's a taunt as well and rush, so you always heal at least for HP, if not more. And you can copy this card a few times. You can play it in wild with the 3 mana 2/4 minion that copies. That summons a copy of a minion that costs 2 or less, I believe. So that's another thing. You can play it with Zola, of course. You can play it with the 2 mana 3/2 star guy that basically is a Zola effect. But the copy disappears if you haven't played it in one turn. So yeah, that's another possibility. Not sure if you play it in this deck, but it's a possible thing. Other than that, it's just a solid card. What else can I say? In Wild, you of course have the 7 mana spell that summons, I believe 7 Whelps. So if you play that spell, this immediately costs 2 mana, which is insane, of course. And if you probably play that spell, you have probably played at least 1 or 2 dragons before. So you can probably trade with the 7 mana spell, and then you can play this for free and trade something else and heal and develop a taunt. This can also get resummoned by Hadranox. It's probably not going to be a thing, but who knows? I like Hadranox. It's a sweet card. It has Rush. Not sure if that's relevant for any mechanic, but you could probably draw it with Countess Ashmore, which is a 7 mana card. But whatever, that's probably not relevant at all. But other than that, it's just a solid dragon. If you are playing dragons or Highlander dragons, you always run this card. So I would just give this card solid 4 out of 5 in both modes. And in Arena, even if you play it for like 8 or 7 mana, it's still decent and good. So even in Arena, I would probably give it 4 stars. It's for sure not a bad legendary to pick, unlike some other examples that need more synergy with the deck. Raya Straza, 8 mana 8/8 dragon, Battle Cry. If your deck has no duplicates, summon the Purified Dragon Nest, which is this card. It's an untargetable minion, like portals from Sargeras, for example. And at the end of your turn, at the start of your turn, you discover a dragon, and it costs 4 less. So it's an endless value generator for your deck, plus it discounts the dragons. So this card is basically auto-include if you are playing a Reno deck. I feel like it's much better than the old Alexstrasza that gave you 2 dragons that cost 2 mana. That cost 0 mana. Because this obviously you can discover the dragon, so you pick the target and you pick it during multiple turns, not only once. So this is obviously much better. But if you play it in Wild, you probably play both, honestly. And this card seems like just like an auto include in these decks, as I said. And not much else to say. Solid card, so I would give it again 4 stars in both modes. But in Arena, it's probably in Arena, it's actually it could be 3 stars because again, I don't know how good these no duplicates decks or drafts in Arena are going to be. Next one, Dragon Golem, 7 mana, 3/4 dragon, taunt. Battlecry summon a copy of this for each dragon in your hand. This is a sweet art. Other than that, this card is a better spreading plague most of the time. Because even if you summon like 5 or 4 copies of this minion, it's still basically like the old clown for 9 mana, which was much harder to achieve. I mean, to fill your board with the clowns. So if you are playing a dragon deck, you probably play this card as well. Just not sure how many dragons you're going to hold in your hand by turn 7, because you probably want to play all the dragons early to get your fee cheaper, which is the legendary card. So I feel like this one is a solid card, but it won't be as good as many people think, because you probably don't want to play the next card that we will look at. So I would give this one, I mean, it's still a decent card, so I would give it like 2 or 3 stars in standard. So like probably 3 stars to be honest, but in Wild I would probably give it 2 stars because I feel like it's a little bit too clunky, but who knows. And in Arena, it's probably not that good, because in Arena you don't have that many dragons, unless you pick a god deck. So in Arena I would give this one probably like 1 or 2 stars to be honest. Dragon Tales, 2 mana, choose one, get 2 random dragons that cost 5 or less, or get 2 that cost more than 5. So it's 6, 7, 8, and so on. It has a sweet art. You can see the dragon with his pillow plushie. Also dreaming about flying with other dragons. That's so sweet. Jesus, that's so adorable. Okay, whatever. I feel like this card is not getting played in both Standard and Wild, but in Arena it's pretty decent. So, I mean, if it's getting played, it's because of the previous card. And if it's getting played, it's probably still like 2 stars, because you can pick the targets. And as you can see, like the 5+ mana cards are not that bad. But if you get, for example, like Nosdormu, or if you get, I don't know, if you get Sleepy Dragon, then you probably cry. But other than that, all the other ones are probably solid or alright. I mean, even Deadwing, like what are you doing with Deadwing? You probably never played, because you have a better board than your opponent most of the time with big dragons, right? So it feels a little bit weird. I think it can be possible a good value generator. So yeah, and dragons that cost 5 or less. There are some pretty bad ones, like Proto Drake, Fairy Dragon, of course. But still, in Wild, it's obviously 1 star. In Standard, I would give it like 2 stars, maybe 3 stars. And in Arena, it's probably insane, because if you get all the you probably always pick the 5 mana, the 6 mana plus dragons, and if you get either of them, it's insane. So in Arena is probably like 4 stars, maybe close to 5, because dragons in Arena are insane with a limited discover pool or a random pool. Next up, for mana, 3/5 dragon again, desert, nest matron, town battlecry. If you are hoarding a dragon, refresh 4 mana crystals. This card feels like an auto include in any dragon deck in Wild in Standard, because obviously it's 0 mana, 3/5. It can activate your corrupt dragon with taunt. So you can play this one. You can play the corrupt taunt dragon, which is going to be a 3 mana 5/6, I believe. You can potentially play 2 of them on the same turn, on turn 4. You can play a lot of stuff. If you discount it somehow, then you can play some other stuff as well. It's mana cheating. This is always going to be good. So this is honestly like 4 stars in both formats. Then in Arena, I just don't know how many dragons you are going to get on average per run. So I would just give it like 2 or 3 stars in Arena. Probably 2, honestly. And maybe 3. Because even if you get like 5 dragons in total and discard, or discard and 4 cards, 4 other dragons, it's still solid. Because if you cheat like 2 4 drops on 1 turn in the early game, it's still insane. So actually 3 stars in Arena. Another one is 2 mana, 2/1 dragon. Splish Splash Whelp. Battlecry, if you are holding a dragon, gain an empty mana crystal. This has a cute art again. But other than that, it's still a Wild Growth on steroids. It has a body, so you can trade something. You probably are holding a dragon on turn 2, because if you are playing dragons, you probably play at least 10 of them. So you have like almost a 100% chance. I mean, yeah, it's like was it 80% chance you're holding another dragon. So this card is almost always going to work. And it's just insane. It's similar to the 2 mana spell that Druid had in the past in Descent of Dragons. That you draw a card, and if you were holding a dragon, after you draw the card, you gain an empty mana crystal. But this one is probably better because it has body, of course. So this one again feels like an auto include in Wild in Standard. So I would just give it 4 stars again. And in Arena, it's still sick. It's probably not as good, but still I would give it like 3 stars in Arena. Because if you are holding at least one, if you have at least 5 dragons, and you can kinda try to mulligan around it and get the empty mana crystal in the early game is insane, invaluable in Arena. So yeah, 3 stars in Arena. Cactus Construct, 1 mana nature spell. Discover a 2-cost minion, summon a 1/2 copy of it. I've looked through a lot of cards. There's like 50 or 62 2 drops, maybe less in Standard. In Wild, it's just never playable because there are too many bad cards. In Standard, I feel like it's still unplayable because there are too many bad cards. So I would just, I mean, it's an interesting one, but like, what do you want to get? You want to probably get like a Reborn or Dead Rattle, potentially like an egg. If this said discover a copy of a minion from your deck and summon a copy of it, then you could potentially like get an egg or something that is useful, but because of the random pool, I feel like it's just kind of bad, to be honest. So I would give this one just 1 star in both modes. But in Arena, it's probably 2 stars, because you can play this one on 1, and then you have a 2-drop to curve into. So in Arena, it's 3 stars. Spinetail Drake for mana 5 for Dragon. Battlecry, if you are holding a dragon, deal 5 damage to an enemy minion. This one feels like a 2015 Blackrock Mountain card, to be honest. It's a little bit too weird. Like, where do you want to deal 5 damage? You probably want to deal like multiple damages. Or you want to go face with the card, which obviously can go face. So it's like a worst Blackwing Corruptor in Wild. Yeah, like if you are playing a dragon deck in Standard, you can probably play this card, but I'm not entirely sure if it's going to fit or slot into that deck, because this card is just much worse than the other dragons that we have seen so far. And in Wild, you are never playing this card. It's too slow. And even in Reno deck, it's just bad. So in Wild, it's 1 star. In Standard, it's 2 stars. And in Arena, again, it's probably worse than the other. I mean, it's worse than the other Drakes. So it's 2 stars. 3 mana. Take to the skies, draw 2 dragons, give them +1/+1. This obviously works with this dragon. It's a solid card draw. It's basically power crept Arcane Intellect. And a lot of classes have draw 2 specific cards, like Varlock that has draw 2 demons, right? For 3 mana. What else? You have in Rogue, you have draw 2 minions and give them stealth if you play them this turn. In other decks, in Priest you have draw 2 minions and swap their health. So this and all the cards have seen play in the recent years. So this one for sure has to see play. Plus it draws you dragons, which you want to do in a dragon deck, of course. So I would say it's much better than the other draw 2 specific cards for 3 mana. And it buffs them as well, which is probably better than giving them stealth. So this one is going to see play in Wild and in Standard in both formats. So I would just give it 4 stars in both modes, Standard and Wild. And there in Arena, if you have at least 3 or 4 dragons, you probably pick this card. And again, it would be 4 stars. Rehydrate, 2 mana nature spell, restore 7 health, quick draw, refresh 2 mana crystals. I don't think you can do a lot of stuff with this card unless you somehow generate it with the 1 mana nature spell. So you get this one for 0 mana, and then you can do some shenanigans, I guess. But I would probably not play this card in my deck, to be honest. So in Wild, it's just 1 star. It's Standard, it's probably 2 stars, because maybe you can slot it into a Reno version. But in Wild, it's just too slow and too bad, probably. And in Arena, it's just 1 star again. Like, I don't see a card that just restores health being any good. You need value and you need board. Or direct damage. That's 3 things that you need in Arena, and this is not either of them. So yeah, that's all the cards for Druid. Tell me what you think in the comments, and see you in the next one.